Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Sigmar.
And in this video, we're having a quick overview review of Ascension Tactics.
Oh.
Before we go any further, if you want to see us play the game, we do have a video available for you to go and look at.
Check out the description, there will be a link in there.
Yeah, and make sure you schedule that properly.
Oh,
so
yeah.
don't put the game out before.
Yeah, I go very wrong. But I wouldn't do anything like that, of course.
Absolutely not.
So Ascension Tactics, what is it, Robin?
Well, Pete, it's a hex-based deck builder.
Ooh.
Now, we do have a bit of a thing for hex-based deck builders in this neck of the woods.
We do.
We do like a bit of God tier,
Yeah.
which has cards, not so much deck building, but it has cards.
But it's still hexes.
Yeah, and we've enjoyed some Bladeborn,
Yeah.
which is hexes and has cards, and
Yeah.
you do not really any deck building. And there's Fire Team, which is space hexes.
Yeah.
And
There was Overdrive as well. That was hex-based
yes.
sports gaming.
yeah, yes, we do like our hexes over here, and I
Yeah.
feel like we've missed one.
It's something underwear, something like that. I can't remember.
Underwear.
Underwears.
Anyway.
Underworlds, of course.
Underworld, yes, and this, I suppose, is quite comparable to Underworld, which is why I was very keen to review it. And I have to say thank you very much to Ultra Pro and Stoneblade for sending us a copy of this to review and look at and play. Because as we have said, we don't really like the deck building elements of Underworld.
Not so much.
But we do like the hex-based shenanigans, and we do like the card stuff, so we thought this is actually perfect because although it's a deck builder, it's not a sit at home and work on your deck game. You basically, it's an in-game deck builder. It's like a traditional Dominion Clank style deck builder.
Yeah, so you'll have a community pool of cards that you'll be drawing cards from and purchasing cards from as the game progresses. And
so we've played a few games of this now, and I would say I really like it.
It's pretty fun. It takes a little while to set up. It is a mare to set up. There's a lot of cards and different decks to set out, but once you've got that down, the game itself plays really quickly.
Yes, it does, and I have to say, because I set it up today, it's actually much easier once you've played a few games, which is kind of inevitable, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's partly because you get quite a lot of bang for your buck with this game, because you get some co-op modes and a solo mode. And some of the cards, I've put them in these boxes, don't come with them, I put them in these boxes. These cards are used for that. But when you're first opening it, you go, I've got red backs, I've got blue backs, I've got these, I've got pictures on them, my God, what are they all? And actually you don't need those, so those three boxes there, you don't actually need them at all. And once you realise that, it's actually quite easy, because you basically just have these... all these massive, they're all black backs, they're the guys for in-game, and then you have there's a pile of blue backed ones, there's probably about 25 of those maybe, they are your heroes. So we've explained it all in the how to play video of how to play, but basically you each have 4 heroes, and they're not called heroes though, are they? They're called champions. You each have 4 champions that you have, and they play on the board. So there's a board here.
Yep. Big old hex-based board. Quickly knock that one out of the way. It's double-sided.
Yeah, it's lovely quality. It's a good side. It's bright and vibrant. I do like the board. Nice and square. So this is the basic game. So the basic game always plays on this arena.
And it's very even on both sides. One person starts up here, one person starts down there, and everything else is pretty much evenly spaced out between the two of you.
But when you get more advanced, you play beyond the introductory scenario. I'm just going to say these 3 things are like the objectives. And it's control game, so whoever controls these scores the victory points. But you then you graduate onto this board,
which is completely empty,
which is now upside down.
Absolutely nothing on there.
But it's also completely empty. And then you get loads inside the box. Loads of hex tokens.
You get
like this
almost enough to cover the whole board.
Yeah.
With different types of cover terrain and objective tokens and various other things.
So this is a foresty one there that you can't walk through the forest. Yep. On the back of that is I think that's like a lava pit, and you take damage if you walk over that. And then there are maps in the campaign book and the scenario book which you build and play out on different arenas. So you've got, I don't know how many there are, but there's a whole number of arenas of different ways to play. So there's a campaign mode where you can basically fight out a number of games over and do a story, which I quite like.
Nice enough. You get lots of nice little coloured plastic gem things to represent all your points as you're playing a game. I mean, even if you're playing like 4-player, there's way more tokens than I think you'll ever need. But
I don't know why they're so pleasing, but they're lovely. I've got a few of these because Ascension started out as a straight deck builder. And there's quite a few different. They do look a bit like sweets. There's a whole slew of Ascension deck builder games, and they all have these, or the ones I've got all have these tokens. We've got quite a few of these in the house, and they're They're very pleasing.
I don't know what it is about them, but they kind of look like hard candy or something like that. You just want to try and chew them on.
Crystal meth.
They do, yeah, a little bit like that. So you'll get a whole ton of cards, the ones that you'll use for the deck that you're going to be drawing from, the ones that you'll actually start when you build your main initial deck to play with, the fighter cards. You get all the little champion tokens, you get the little bases to put them on, you get a bunch of other tokens as well for other characters and other things that come out in the game as well.
An interesting thing, now I don't know what Ages of Sigmar viewers think about this. It's possibly a topic for a discussion on our podcast, but there was a Kickstarter edition where you could go all in and get a load of miniatures. I guess they were resin miniatures for these, but this version of the game only has cardboard standees.
And there are about another like 30 or 40 different cardboard standees for all the other champions, because there are a lot of champions.
There's as many as 40, but there may be 30.
But at least 20.
Yeah, it probably says in the rules. We'll probably look it up. And they have different factions, and the scenarios has suggested heroes that you can play. So they each have 4 suggested heroes that you play the game with. But you can do it via drafting mechanism. Once you know which the heroes are, which ones you like to play, and perhaps you know which ones your opponent likes to play, you can actually draft, and therefore you can sort of battle over who gets to control what.
Yeah.
I've digressed slightly, because what I was going to say was you don't get the miniatures in this game.
No.
You get little standees. I don't think it spoils the game. Obviously, it would look lovely if you have fully painted Underworld style miniatures to play this game with, but I didn't feel like the game lacked anything from having cardboard standees.
I'm a sucker for plastic. I do like the models, and I think I'd love it even more with the models.
They do look good. There's some pictures of them in the rule book.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's available. It seemed to be a Kickstarter exclusive, so we couldn't find it anywhere to play.
And I feel like if you did, the box in itself is a pretty chunky sized box. If you then had a whole load of plastic models, you'd have at least another box the same size again on top of that.
Probably,
and do we need that in our world these days? Probably not. No. It would be nice to be able to buy maybe the starter characters, if not the additional ones that you can then draw out during the game, because I mean, you're not going to want to paint 20 odd models that you might or might not use in a game.
No, although you can use these. Some of these are used in the game. In the other games.
It'd be nice if you could buy for the 4 different sort of factions, elements, whatever you want to call them. It'd be nice if you could buy like all of the Mechana ones or the Void ones or whatever they are. It'd be nice if you could buy them separately, just if they are your thing, you could then go out and buy them.
So there are 4 factions, 4 elements, I don't know what they're called, but there are 4 types of cards. So there's Enlightened champions, there are Lifebound champions, there are Mechana champions, and there are Void champions. But they don't really... Some of them work synergise nicely together. Some of the effects, because there are cards related to each of them, the effects synergise, but you're not restricted in the game. Just because you've chosen 2 Mechana champions or 2 Void champions, you're not restricted to the other that type of card throughout.
There are certain cards in the community deck which will give Void champions certain things, or if your champion is a Mechana champion, they might get more of a bonus or something. Or some of them will be like, if you have additional Void cards in your discard pile, then that'll give you bonuses and things like that. But yeah, you don't need to concentrate on one path.
No, but you tend to do that as you go. So if you think, actually in this game, I wanted to work on my Void champions, and your opponent is nicking all the Void cards, you could quickly switch to one of the other types and build a strategy around those. Yeah, I think it's really fun. I think it's quick to learn. But it's quite varied with all the different play modes and the different scenarios. It's quite varied in how many different types of games you had. We played a game which had lots of damaging hexes, and that made a very different game, because you couldn't get to where you wanted to go without injuring your fighters.
You had to be very careful about where you ran around.
And a death of a fighter is quite painful in this game. They can come back, but they cost resources, and it's a proper resource management headache. When you're playing, you basically have 2 types of resources. You have power, and you have runes. And runes are what you use to buy cards from the community, from the centre row, and the power is what you use to activate your fighters. And you can only activate fighters, you activate champions on the board using the card that you play out of your hand.
Now, the only kind of slight drawback I have with this game, if there is any drawback, is that when you want to set up the board for the different play modes, it can result in placing a lot of hexes on the table. And if you jog that board a little bit, it's almost game over, and you're almost going to have to go back to square one again.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, these hexes would be recessed.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And you stop them in.
That'd
so
be
you
nice.
couldn't knock them over. That would be the perfect world, because you're absolutely right. Some of them have sort of, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 different hexes. And like I say, if you just knock them,
it's just going to go
who was
everywhere.
where, or what was where. They are all symmetrical, so you can line it up, but it does add setup time as well. That game we played where we did set it all up, it took quite a long time for us.
Added a lot more extra time to do all that, and you know, if you're moving the models, or sorry, not the models, if you're moving the little standees and you accidentally catch one of the hexes, because you generally have so many on there, it's just going to knock a whole bunch of them off. It's a very small problem. In the grand scheme of things, you could get around it multiple ways, getting some tacky sort of tape or something to sort of hold them in place without actually sticking them down hard or anything like that, or maybe even some Velcro or something like that. But it's the only real issue I could come up with.
You could build your own hexagonal board with recesses.
But that's about the only problem I had. So you do have to be a little careful, because there's a lot of cards, lots of decks of cards all over the place, and tokens and things. So you do have to be a little bit careful with your play area in that instance.
That's about it, I think. You do get an awful lot in the box. So there are actually 45 champion standees. You know, I said there weren't 40. There are actually 45. And you did get 45 miniatures in the Kickstarter edition. It says Kickstarter edition only. And there's holders for them. But there are 334 cards in various types. Mostly, there's 132 for what they call the centre deck. But I like your community deck phrase. I think
prefer community.
Community deck is very nice. And
you can buy it off me for 20 quid.
What, the term?
Yeah.
So, and yeah, that's, you get a lot there. You get a nice treasure bag, because there's a little treasure mechanic.
I did like the treasure bag. I forgot to mention that. I do like the little velvet treasure bag.
On the board, there's a treasure mechanic where treasure chests, you get put treasure chest tokens on the board, and when you land on them, you can turn them over, and they give you a one-time bonus, which can actually be the difference between life and death. You get a little bag for them with Ascension tactics written on it, so you can't actually then take the bag and give your wife a present or something, and just because you know what it's from. But never mind. I brought you some gems, darling. I mean, actually, really, these are what should go in the bag.
Yeah.
Or some beans. So I give this a thumbs up for what that's worth. I think it's, I really enjoy it. In some ways, I prefer it to Underworlds, because it's, I think it's probably because it's fresh and different for me.
It's different, yeah. The game plays really quickly. If you watch our playthrough video, they play really quick, so even if they do end up a bit one-sided due to just the luck of the draw, you can quickly rack up
a new one.
Play another game very easily without too much discomfort or
absolutely.
faff.
But I feel like because the strategy evolves on the fly, that's what I quite like about it. Like in Underworld, you obviously you can build different decks and use different warbands, so you have got variety. But you're kind of, once you sit down at the table, you kind of know how you want the game to go.
Yeah.
With a game like this, you can almost, and I guess when you get good at it, you probably do have an idea how you want it to go. But you can kind of make your strategy up on the fly, and you don't quite know what's going to happen.
It does still depend on those community cards. If the right community cards don't come out for you, then your tactics are going to have to change.
Yeah, in the test game we had lots of very expensive ones, so it became quite difficult to actually acquire anything out in the middle, which is unusual, but it changes the way you have to play. And I quite like that about it. And I quite like the fact that there are quite a number of different scenarios and different ways to play. You can play battle against one, one-on-one. You can play 3-player. You can play 4-player. You can play 2 against 2. You can play solo. You can play 2-player co-op or 4-player co-op.
And and solo mode, which you mentioned.
Yes, so it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And there's a campaign mode as well. So you get quite a lot of bang for your buck.
You do. Speaking of bucks.
Yeah, price-wise, it's been a little bit difficult to pin down. I'm not 100% sure of its availability, particularly in the UK, but it seems to be about 60 to 80 US dollars. A lot more if you want to try and pick up the Kickstarter edition. Which sadly I don't think you can officially get that anymore. But it seems to be available in Australia too. And actually it was VJ Morph who put me onto the game. He mentioned it in our Patreon Discord. So hopefully it's available down there for you, VJ, and I hope you enjoyed this review of it. So one thing I did want to ask you, Pete, is what do you think of the artwork? You're always very hot on your artwork.
There's tons of it in here. There's so many cards, there's so many different kind of artwork. Some of them I think are trash, but actually most of them I actually really like.
Say what you really mean.
I really like. There's lots of different styles in here as well. Some of them are quite dark.
Yeah.
Other ones are a bit more cartoony and comic book effect, and I just really like. There's just so many different styles to look for in here.
The artwork, particularly the Enlightened champions, are what drew me in to the game. there's one of the starter champions that you use in the campaign, which is called the Aha Templar.
Aha.
Take on me. It's actually ARHA, but he's like a paladin, which I always like a paladin. And when I saw that card, I really wanted to play the game back because he features in the original version of the game. So I really like the artwork. I think it really adds something. Like I say, some of the pictures are better than others. But
most of them are good.
Yeah,
most of them are of at least a good level. But because there's so many in here, you haven't got to go far to find one that you're going to like the style of in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, I think it's a really nice little addition to the whole game. The cards are what make the game in this situation, and the artwork on those cards doesn't disappoint.
Excellent.
There you go, that's pretty much a quick run through of the whole box, what it's got and what we think of it. Do check out our playthrough video to get an idea of how the game actually runs and see what's going on when you play a game. And do let us know in the comments below if you've got any questions about the game, the contents, playability or anything like that.
Absolutely, and do remember to, if you do enjoy it, then do like, subscribe, ring that bell, all that stuff, and do check out the Agents of Sigmar podcast, which I'm pushing in every video at the moment because it's just new and it started. And
Robin's just discovered
we love
podcasts.
It. Oh, I love it. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, we'll see you soon on the Agents of Sigmar. Bye.